But in the rubble that day was a book. You picked it up, you studied it, and I thought I saw a way. I knew. You were in there, somewhere. I just had to find a way to bring you back.
Okay, so yes, I played the opening intro again because I realized I was a little bit hungry. And as unprofessional as it can be, yes, my mouth is full of nachos at the moment. Well, chips and salsa. Yes, healthy, I know. But anyway, I got a little hungry. So if you paid attention to, and of course you can always go back after this is done. If you paid attention, it talked about the programming of people and how it's done, and the concept of a handler, and whether or not you may have a handler in your life, you may not even be aware of the semi-spiritual battle that is going on in your very life. You are programmed to go from 9 to 5, to clock in, clock out, go home, feed the kids, feed the dog, water the lawn, wash the car. And all the while, something much darker and much more sinister is going on. So I talked about television and the devices that we buy that open our minds to the programming. I mentioned a man named Hendrikus G. Lou. Loos, you can look him up. But this guy not only applied for and was granted the patent to build televisions and phones and computer monitors that emit electromagnetic waves to affect your personality, your moods, your power of reception of suggestions. He also holds other patents. Among these patents are such terms as, quote, subliminal acoustic manipulation of nervous systems, remote magnetic manipulation of nervous systems, method and apparatus for associative memory. Dr. Hendrikus Lou worked in the late 1950s. His work with Plasmadyne Corporation yielded a patent for, quote, apparatus and method for generating and containing plasma having ultra-high temperatures. A few years later, he worked with Douglas Aircraft's Advanced Research Department, studying electromagnetic fields utilizing the Yang-Mills, M-I-L-L-S theory. He continued his research, publishing yet another article about Yang-Mills fields in 1969 and the American Physical Society Journal. In the 80s, it seems he set up shop in his Fallbrook, California home and developed Laguna Research Laboratory, working on government projects with the Department of Defense, the Department of Health and Human Services, and the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, more commonly known as DARPA. And if you don't know DARPA, then, the world that is about to open before you when you research the things DARPA is working on and has publicly displayed. The projects included quote, cost-effective therapeutic aerosol devices and memory storage devices, allegedly capable of learning. He later became president of Q-Wave Corporation, the business license entity number C2397670 in 2003 was filed by and I'm going to loosely try to pronounce this, Yangtze, Jansje Lu, which I'm assuming is another of the family. But around the office, since there were two people of the last name Lu, Hendrikus was addressed by his nickname as a shortened version of Hendrikus, Who, or Hugh, H-U, Lou. Hulu. I'm just saying. You can do the math and figure out that, they literally put the poison on the net for you to binge watch. But I took a break there at the moment, and actually I had scripted that this would be the moment of the break. But what I'm going to talk about now are articles that hint at the concept, again, of something more sinister. In discussing mind control and the affecting of the nervous system via electronic devices, and the fact that patents exist for this and other types of devices. They do, in fact, exist. You can research them. But how do we know when such influences and the results thereof appear before us? Just this past October, a London, Kentucky man was charged with killing his stepfather. And you can Google that story. You'll find the mugshot of 35-year-old John Stricker, smiling with a look of contentment despite being charged with murder. He looks pretty happy and accomplished for killing his stepfather. When asked by local media about the event, the suspect, John Stricker, said he intentionally shot 62-year-old Donnie Stone and described the murder as excellent. He further states, I had to use 5 bullets because I had to go through 5 different levels on the earth to tap that vein down there. He told this to WLEX, and that the military told him to kill his stepfather, that it was strict and confidential instructions to kill his stepfather. He said it was a very excellent thing to do. He also stated that he had to fire 5 shots because there were 5 letters in his stepfather's last name. Another article stated that the suspect suffers from a mental illness and had stopped taking his medications. Yet, there resonates a sense of, creepiness, I guess, when he says he did this under strict and confidential orders of the military. He was indicted on December 19th on that murder charge. The qualifying concept here is to determine as to whether a mental instability exists. Schizophrenia, defined as a long-term mental disorder of a type involving a breakdown between thought, emotion, and behavior, leading to faulty perception, inappropriate actions and feelings, withdrawal from reality and personal relationships, into fantasy and delusion, and a sense of mental fragmentation. But schizophrenia what is schizophrenia. My ex-wife, her former husband, served in the Gulf War. And when he came home, he also was diagnosed with schizophrenia. Now, there are people who have told me that schizophrenia is the exact result of programming. That it is not just a random or even a genetic disorder. That we've all been subject to this type of programming since forever, since the beginning of our lives. But I invite you to always do your own research. Open the door with MK Ultra and television mind control as keywords. And what you will see on both sides of pro and con are enough to make you realize that even if this is just another nut job conspiracy, that a lot of people have spent a lot of money on trying to make sure that both sides are brought to your attention. A quick blip of information from a 2007 Time magazine article states that it's estimated that people who are afflicted with schizophrenia are 20 times more likely to kill another person as people unaffected by the disease. But where does the separation occur? At what point do you say, oh, he says the government told him to commit this murder. He's obviously crazy. Then, however, you come across information like this very patent, the topic of tonight's show, that proves that the intent of your electronic devices are actually designed to manipulate your nervous system and thought patterns. I suppose, though, there are people who believe they see through the veil of deception. Those who are seemingly not affected by the massive array of chemicals that your government allows you to have, despite some of them bringing untimely deaths. Yes, there are those who consider themselves to be far too intelligent, to be hypnotized, to be somehow manipulated by words or pulses of light, or the combination of both. Remember, your very Central Intelligence Agency began in the early 1950s, officially sanctioned in 1953, was reduced in scope in 1964, further curtailed in 1967, and officially halted in 1973. Of course, I am talking about MK Ultra. The program engaged in many illegal activities, including the use of unwitting U.S. and Canadian citizens as its test subjects. These included experiments on people that were intended to identify and develop drugs and procedures to be used in interrogations and torture in order to weaken the individual to force confessions through mind control. In fact, it happened not so long ago when some of the people that were somehow, and I will say allegedly, connected to the events of 9/11, they were being interrogated, as the word was released in Gitmo, and one of them, I'm doing this from memory, otherwise I would provide a complete source for you to research. But one of the suspects who was somehow related to the 9/11 terrorist attack claimed that after the waterboarding and all the other, fun little things they do down there to try to get people to talk, that Allah had to come to him and very specifically told him that he needed to reveal to the interrogators the names of those others who were involved and where they might be found and blah, 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 blah. So he spilled his guts because